if you're having trouble sleeping on the carnivore diet, there are a number of reasons that could be the cause of this. But I want to really zero in on a couple of them here. And now you might be surprised even to see this as a topic: sleep problems on the carnivore diet. Since, as I talked about in another video, a lot of carnivores talk about sleeping more efficiently, maybe less sleep overall is what they're getting, but getting more efficient sleep every night. But there are also, well, enough reported cases of people experience sleeplessness that we should really talk about this. And there are two seemingly principal causes for this. And if there are two causes, we can actually do at least two solutions. So let's go over the first one. And the first one is fairly common, strangely common actually, in the carnivore world, and that is a vitamin D deficiency. There was a meta-analysis of research done in 2018 called The Association Between Vitamin D Deficiency and Sleep Disorders, a systematic review and meta-analysis. And it was published back again in the National Library of Medicine, is where I'm getting this information from through PubMed. And you can see here, I'll just give you the sort of the meat of the article here. The short version of this is just quote from their discussion section of the article. This meta-analysis discussed the relationship between vitamin D deficiency and sleep disorders, including poor sleep quality, short sleep duration, and sleepiness. Overall, the results showed that serum 25-OHD levels were inversely associated with an increased risk of sleep disorders, meaning the less vitamin D in your system, or if you're deficient in vitamin D, the more likely you are to experience sleep disorders. So, because we talked about vitamin D as a deficiency, what can you do about it? Some people will say go spend more time in the sun. Unless you live in an equatorial region or near the equator, that's not going to be much of a solution. Even in the sunniest climates in the United States, Texas, Southern California, people still have vitamin D deficiency. It's just a reality. So, what can you do? I have done a video on vitamin D and specifically D3 and K2. I would recommend watching that video, but the short version here is the most carnivore-friendly ways of getting vitamin D3 come to three sources. The first source is going to be salmon. Easy salmon gets you 8 ounces of it, will get you something like 60% or 100% of your vitamin D. It's a staggering amount. So get some salmon. It's easily a carnivore food. Wild caught if you can. People debate the farmed stuff. Farmed fish is kind of gross in terms of how it's done, but if that's all you can afford, then it's understandable. But salmon is going to be a great source for vitamin D. The second means of addressing this is going to be eggs. A whole egg has about 10% of your daily requirement for vitamin D. That doesn't sound like much, but remember, how many of you out there eat more than like 4 or 5 eggs at a time when you're having breakfast? If you're eating till comfortably stuffed, like the mainstream thought in the carnivore world says, when you eat eggs, how many of them are you eating at a time? A lot of people are eating 6 eggs at a time, 10 eggs at a time. I've seen that. It's not uncommon. So let's say you're having 5 eggs. That's half your daily requirement according to USDA values, and we'll put an asterisk next to USDA standards for this. We'll revisit that in a moment. 50% in just eggs. What do people often have with eggs? They have the other solution, butter. We'll go over that in a moment. Pretty easy to get your food, your vitamin D intake up pretty high just from eggs and a little bit of butter. And the third solution is, of course, as I just said, butter, specifically grass-fed butter or pasture-raised butter. So, again, a serving of butter, again, about 10%. That doesn't sound like much, but if you're having some eggs, you're having some butter, maybe a little bit of salmon later, you've easily hit your USDA recommendations for vitamin D. Now, USDA recommendations are going to be based off of the nutritional needs of somebody on the standard American diet, or as somebody in the comments of a video said recently, and I like this, that we should call it the standard Occidental diet. Orient meaning east, Occident meaning west, so standard Occidental diet, which the acronym would be SOD, S-O-D, and the standard American diet is DIRT, we'll say. So it works. But the standard American diet, right, that's where they base the USDA recommendations off of. And there may be different requirements for all the nutrients and micronutrients if you're just carnivore or carnivore adjacent. All right. So that's the first one. But the second thing that could be causing this is a lack of electrolytes in your system. And this almost seems like people treat electrolytes like a silver bullet for all of your problems in the carnivore world, and they certainly aren't. But they can solve a lot of problems, including heart palpitations and other things. I did a video on that also. So here I have a 2017 article from Sleep Science magazine found through the National Library of Medicine's website called Electrolyte Imbalance and Sleep Problems During Antiretroviral Therapy, an Under-Recognized Problem. Now this is a context one, but it does give us a hint. Sleep disorders associated with electrolyte imbalance. This is the key here. Sleep problems such as insomnia, restless sleep, daytime sleepiness, sleep apnea syndrome, periodic limb movement disorder, and restless leg syndrome are prevalent among dialysis patients having electrolyte complications. And I'm going to tell you right now, I have seen enough carnivores talk about having the same problem that this is probably not just a problem that they're seeing among, dialysis patients, but these are just problems in general if you have electrolyte imbalances. And there are, of course, other problems you can get from not having enough electrolytes, including heart palpitations and things, but we're not going to go over those here. If you're having trouble sleeping, up your electrolytes. And the first way to do it is to get some sea salt. Now, in the carnivore world, we love Redmond's real salt, at least if you're in North America. And the general rule that I've heard others say, and I'll repeat it here, is this. Make sure you're getting something from wherever it is you are in the world. If you're in North America, get North American sea salt. If you are in, Asia or Australia, get something local to your continent. And don't get it from the oceans. I know I just told you to eat salmon, but sea salts from the oceans can have microplastics and can have heavy metals in them, mercury and other things. So that's why, if you've ever wondered why people are so on Redmond's real salt in the carnivore world, that's why. It's because they don't have a lot of those pollutants in them. So get them from a landlocked source, wherever you get them from. Himalayan salt's fine, but I will tell you, as someone who's used a lot of different sea salts, Redmond's real salt just hits different. It just does. I don't know what it is. Not a scientist, I couldn't tell you. But if you're having trouble sleeping on the carnivore diet, it might be your vitamin D, or it could be your electrolytes. So those are your two things you should really aim to fix first and foremost. Let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. If you have other issues with sleep, let me know. It could be, remember, if you're going to say magnesium or potassium, those are electrolytes. You could do external supplementation, but we want to try to do things without external supplementation. So let me know what you thought of this in the comments, please. Like, subscribe if you can. It does help. And as always, thanks for watching today.